start off with the counting the breaths meditation. The most important thing about counting the breaths is not to make it a competition to get to 10 all the time. Because if you do that, it becomes more difficult. The best thing to do is to make it a process of noticing how you can notice your breathing and counting your breathing. So let me explain what I mean by that. It's very common to, when you're doing counting the breaths, what you're doing is you're counting 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath, 4 on the out-breath, up to 10, and you go back to 1 again. It's very easy to find yourself breathing in time to the counting. So your counting develops a rhythm, and then you find yourself breathing in time to the counting. But ideally, the process is a process of being aware and noticing that the breathing's happening and counting the breaths when they happen. And you'll notice all sorts of things about the breath. You'll notice that some breaths are longer than others. You'll notice that some breaths are deeper than others. Ideally, it's a process of noticing the breath, noticing yourself being aware of the breath, and noticing that the mind is counting each breath. So if you get yourselves comfortable, I'll begin the meditation with a bell. So this is counting from 1 to 10 on the in and out breaths. When you get to 10, start at 1 again. If you lose count, start at 1 again. So it's 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath, 4 on the out-breath, up to 10. Get to 10, start at 1. Lose count, start at 1.
At this point, I suggest you pause the playback, meditate for as long as you wish, meditating for at least 2 or 3 minutes, and then when you're ready, restart it.
So what you can do now is to move straight over to following the breath. And with that, all we're doing is we're noticing the breath, noticing the sensation of the breath, the coolness and warmth of the breath, and the rhythm and cycle of the breath. If it helps, then as you breathe in, you can say in your mind, rising. When you breathe out, falling. Just noticing the breath, rising and falling. And spend a minute or two just following the breath.
At this point, I suggest you pause the playback, meditate for as long as you wish, meditating for at least 2 or 3 minutes, and then when you're ready, restart it.
Noticing the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sensation of being pushed down into the chair, and then gently in your very own time, return your attention to the room. So the thing to do is to focus on your awareness of your awareness. Allow yourself to notice that you're noticing the experience. So there's the counting, and it's not you're not the counting. You're noticing the counting happening. You're noticing the breath happening, and you're noticing the counting happening. And the more you're aware of your awareness, the more focus there is on those experiences, and then the calmer the mind becomes. So there's two points and another thing going on. Point number one is the breath. Point number two is me noticing the breath. And then the thing that's going on is the counting. The counting's noticing the breath as well. And it's doing its thing by counting. And you can sit there and you can see these processes operating in the brain. And that might sound kind of spooky, but actually we know that the brain is very distributed. All of these different processes all operating at the same time. And even consciousness, all of the great neuroscientists say that consciousness is a combination of lots of experience and awareness, all seemingly in one place. The only thing that absolutely is in one place is the awareness that's aware of everything. You can have multiple personalities, many voices in your head. You don't actually have to be schizophrenic to experience that. It's part of our experience. You think about it. If you're counting, you've got an inner voice. That's inner voice number one. And then if your mind's busy, that's inner voice number two. And everybody experiences that. So that's two voices in our head, just to start off with. And then if we're imagining a conversation could be between 5 people. There's 6 voices in your head. Yeah. So it's not something to be uncomfortable about. It's just something to notice. But like I said, there's only ever one awareness of these. And the awareness will get drawn into the 6-way conversation and not notice the counting, and then the counting goes wrong. And at some point you come back from the 6-way conversation. And so the other inner voice, which is the counting, becomes your focus. And it's all about noticing that this is happening. That's the best way that you can benefit from counting the breaths. And the other things to notice is that the breaths changes. The duration of the breath and the depth of the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. Sometimes you hardly breathe in and you breathe out, and other times you breathe in deeply and hardly breathe out, and all of this kind of stuff's all going on. And it's a good practice to be aware that you're aware of it.